Today I will be showing you how to make the Mia skirt. This skirt comes with two waist options, high-waisted and low-waisted, and two pocket styles. I will be making the high-waisted version, but the low-waisted version uses the same instructions. A little reminder to wash your fabric before sewing. This avoids shrinkage later. I chose to use corduroy for this and even dyed it a dark green, but you can use a lighter denim, linen, or even a soft cotton twill. Something medium weight with a little drape, but no stretch. Cut out all your fabric pieces. You should have a front piece, back piece, a waistband piece, and a pocket piece of choice. I went with pocket A for this tutorial. You will also need an invisible zipper that's roughly 30 centimeters or 12 inches or longer. If you have a serger, serge all the raw edges. If making the high-rise version, skip to the next step. If making the low-rise version, the waistband will be 2 pieces. Match up the curved edges right sides together. Pin them together, marking the middle point, and place a couple more pins to hold it together. We'll be sewing along that edge. Starting at one end of that edge, straight stitch a 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch seam, stopping when you hit that pin marker. With the needle down, lift the presser foot and rotate the fabric to continue the seam on the other side. This will create that point. At that point, cut from the edge of the fabric close to the seam without cutting the thread. Make a couple more cuts along the curves, but not as deep as the center point one. This will help it sit better when the waistband is opened and folded over. Make sure you also press the seam out flat. It's kind of hard to tell here, but this makes the waistband curve in more than if it was just straight. This is to make it easier for adjustments, as some folks are curvier than others and might need a deeper curve to prevent gapping at the back. If you need a deeper curve, you simply need to adjust it on the pattern. Move the point in further and blend the curves about halfway into the original seam. Reflect this on the seam allowance. Then just cut out this part for your new curvier waistband. Now onto the front and back pieces. Mark out the darts and notches for the slits on both the front and back. You can clip the fabric at the top for the darts, but it's better to use pins and fabric chalk for the notches. I've also traced down a straight line with fabric chalk to make sewing the darts easier. Now sew all 4 darts. 2 on the front and 2 on the back. Keep note that the darts on the back will be wider than the darts on the front. Put that aside for now. Next, grab your pocket piece. Flip it over so the wrong side is facing you. We will be sewing a 1/2 centimeter or 2/5 of an inch hem all along the edges, excluding the top. I find it easier to sew the sides of the pockets first, then the bottom last. Now we will repeat the same thing, making sure to not sew the top. With a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam, sew the sides first. To cut down some bulk on the bottom of the pocket, you can trim off the corners on the back side, making sure you don't clip the seams. Now sew the bottom. You might need something to help the presser foot jump over the bulky corner. I like to use a nail file. Here's your finished pocket before adding it to the skirt. Find and mark the center of the top and bottom of the pocket. You can do this by folding it in half and adding pins. Also find the center top of the front skirt piece and the center point roughly between the bottom of the darts and the notches. I just used pins, but you can also use chalk. Taking your pocket, line up those center points and pin together along the top, making sure the darts are folded towards the sides. Smooth out the fabric along the center and pin the bottom part of the pocket along the center point. You want to smooth the fabric out without pulling too much or the pocket will be warped when sewn. The sides will be a little trickier since we have the darts in behind, making the front piece lay on a bit of a curve. Smooth out the sides of the pocket while pulling the front piece to lay the pocket along that curve. Being careful, again, not to pull the fabric too much. Pin the pocket in place all along the edges. Take your time and make sure the pocket is sitting how you'd like it. You can also fold the front piece in half and see if the pocket lines up straight at the bottom. My pocket looks a little warped because I could not iron my fabric. The heat will pull the fresh dye out, leaving me with a patchy looking dye job. Once you're happy with your pocket position, we will sew along the top, sides, and bottom. Make sure not to sew the pocket holes. The top pocket seam can be anything as long as it's less than 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch. When sewing the sides and bottom of the pocket, follow along the seam you made when folding over the edges. Make sure to backstitch a few times to really stabilize the pocket opening. When you get to the bottom corner, backstitch a few times for stability. Then with the needle down, lift your presser foot up and rotate the fabric. You might need something to help the presser foot jump over the bulky corner. Backstitch here a couple times before sewing the rest of the bottom. Repeat at the other corner and pocket opening. Now that we have our pocket finished, we can attach the back piece. Lay the back piece on the front piece, right sides together. Choose which side you want your zipper to be on. I want mine on the right, so I'll be leaving the left side open and pinning only the right side. Starting from the top, pin down the right side, ending at the notch. Sew a 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch seam all along that edge, stopping right at the notch, backstitching a couple times for stability. This will be the top of the slit opening. So unfortunately I lost the original footage and had to redo this part. So just pretend you don't see the zipper and imagine that the zipper side is completely open and not sewed. Take your waistband, making sure you have the fabric pattern or texture facing the right way. If the waistband is laid out right side up, the pattern should be facing the same direction as the skirt. Flip it over vertically and start pinning along the top edge of the skirt. Pin both the end openings first. Then find the center point by folding the skirt in half. Then evenly pin the rest of the waistband, making sure the back darts lay flat toward the sides. Sew a 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch seam all along the waistband, backstitching at both ends. Next, we will install the zipper. With right sides of the fabric together, pin the front and back notches together, making sure the waistband seams will line up at the top. Fold the waistband down so the serged edge overlaps the waistband seam. It should fold down roughly 1/2 centimeter or 2/5 of an inch past the seam. Mark the fold with a pin. Do this for both sides. Starting at the notch, measure up the skirt about 10 centimeters or 4 inches. Make a mark here by pinning the two pieces together. If you have wider hips, make that measurement a bit shorter. This is where the zipper will end. Line up the top of your zipper with that pin at the waistband and place a pin in the zipper where you made that new mark on the skirt. Using a 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch seam, sew the skirt together between those two notches, making sure to backstitch for stability. Take your zipper and create a new stopper by zigzag stitching over the teeth. Make the new stopper about 3 centimeters or 1 inch below where you marked. Trim the zipper a few centimeters or a couple inches below that mark. Pin or base stitch your zipper and install. Make sure the skirt and waistband seams are all facing up. You can either look up other videos on how to install an invisible zipper, or check that section on my Buffy skirt tutorial. Just make sure the top of the zipper starts where you marked those pins earlier. Once your zipper is sewed in, we can finish the waistband. Taking one side of the zipper opening, fold the top of the zipper away from the skirt, then fold the waistband over, lining up the serged edge just past that waistband seam. Pin in place. Sew along the edge of the inside of the zipper, along the edge of the teeth, where the waistband is folded over. Tie off the thread ends. You should be able to flip the zipper out and have a nice edge like this. Flip the skirt inside out and start folding in the rest of the waistband. Make sure the serged edge is just past the waistband and seam about 1/2 centimeter or 2/5 of an inch. Pin in place. I find it easier to start at the side seam and then work evenly around the waistband. Flip the skirt right side out and we will straight stitch along the waistband, trying to keep the seam inside the ditch where the waistband and skirt body connect. This might be a bit of a challenge, so just take your time. There's really no need to rush these things. Start about 1/2 centimeter or 2/5 of an inch away from the zipper and end about the same distance, making sure to backstitch at both ends. If you missed a couple spots on the inside, but most of it is sewed, then it'll be fine. What's inside is nobody's business. And now we are on to the final step, hemming. We'll start with the side slits first. Fold in the sides by 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch and pin. Starting about 1/2 centimeter or 2/5 of an inch above the slit, straight stitch along the serged edge of the fabric you just pinned. When one side is done, start at the very beginning of that seam, at the slit. Straight stitch across the side seam until you get to the serged edge on the other side. And with the needle down, lift your presser foot and sew all the way down the other side of the slit. And finally, hem the very bottom with a 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch seam, making sure to backstitch at the ends. And now you're ready to take your new Mia skirt out into the wild. There's so many styling options with these, especially with the 2 waist heights. You can even play around with the length of the hem, shorten it, or even create an asymmetric version with a high front and low back. You can also lower the slit so it's not as revealing. I would love to see your version, so feel free to tag me on any of my socials. Anyway, I love you, stay true to yourself, and always fight that good fight.